Dear audience slash class, I hope you're all fine and enjoying these days together sharing one another's work. I'm so sorry I can't be there, and I'm feeling a protracted sense of loss not being able to be there as part of the audience to see what you've all made. I'm really looking forward to watching the recordings of your work and hopefully continuing more conversations beyond the class time. I feel simultaneously close to you but far from you in the act of doing this video. I know that you will all be online together seeing this, and then I'm away here on Thursday. I'd like to stick with this feeling of closeness and distance for the next few minutes in this little in-between letter essay I'm writing to you about Sunny and I's work, where it comes from and where it could go. To get my bearings on these feelings, I'll turn to Sara Ahmed, our trustee guide for this class. In the 7th chapter of The Cultural Politics of Emotion, she writes on who gets to act in the name of love. Writing on the way the British state speaks about multiculturalism as a national ideal in the early 2000s, Ahmed observes on how multicultural love becomes a humanist ideal, operating as a refrain which sounds something like, "If only we were closer, we would be as one." Ahmed notices how this urge confects a mythic idea of national belonging by flattening out differences. If only non-white, non-British people would assimilate into ideals of white British sociality and language, this would magically cohere different communities together. This logic, Ahmed critiques, ignores what non-white, non-British people would have to give up in order to try and live up to this ideal. It ignores the ways in which an aspirational multicultural love is built on a foundation of white supremacy. It ignores the fact that there is a logic which promotes white British middle-class existence as aspirational, as the only kind of life worth living. I think Ahmed's critique of this humanist approach and her critique of who gets to act in the name of love are ones which resonate with mine and Sunny's work on this parody which you just watched. This ethos of, if only we were closer, we would live as one, is something we find alive and unwell in this neo-colonialist, spiritualist communities which we critique. Their entire ethos is built around acting in the name of love. Self-love, spiritual love, a higher love. However, the leaders of these groups relegate politics and privilege from these spaces, as if love is contingent upon an absence of politics. It is this notion which allows the white women with business degrees who run these workshops to adopt Indian names for themselves without a pause for reflection. It is what allows people with so many intersecting privileges on the levels of their race, class, ethnicity, ability, and gender identity to feel comfortable in the space, to try something sexy and new without ever questioning their role and responsibilities in broader structural oppressions. By relegating politics and privilege from these spaces, it is what allows the leaders and indeed members of these groups to propagate a neo-colonialist agenda, stealing philosophies and traditions from Eastern spiritual practices, citing them poorly, if at all. It is what allows them to inscribe binary ideas of masculinity and femininity to mean very specific, narrow things in these spaces, which serve the bodily pleasures of the individual, and usually the individual cis man. The amount of times when men in these spaces are encouraged to tap into their femininity, but women are not encouraged to tap into their masculinity. I guess their vision of a woman embodying a masculine energy would be too butch in the minds of the people running these workshops, and it wouldn't titillate their erotics enough. When Sunny and I attended an ecstatic dance workshop, the only time we went to do so, there was a distinct banality for us as two bisexual women quickly discovering another space in the world which treats erotics between two women as a spectacle for men. These communities make themselves politically nebulous by design so that they can appeal to an allegedly universalizing humanism, when in reality it just means they want to have as large a share of the market as possible. They do not see how promoting themselves on an ethos of universalist love is in itself a political gesture. By presenting your own white neo-colonialist spiritualist tourism as timeless, as aspirational, it lays the foundation of these spaces as one bound up with white supremacy. There is a horrible violence in pretending that this space is about community, about intimacy, but using all of the tricks and language of the marketplace. The individual's feelings are supreme. The individual is refashioned as a client. When you centre the individual's ability to be connected, to feel intimacy, in what sense is this building a healthy community? But these groups work on particular dramaturgies of intimacy to make you feel close to one another. They welcome you, they are so glad you're here, they hold your gaze, they hold your body too sometimes, whether or not you want it. In this act of parody which Sunny and I have engaged with in this video, I want to ask, what does it materially do to create a parody of these types of groups? The answer might be not much, but I'd like to ask further, what could it do? If, for example, paired with something like a discussion or a workshop afterwards, where we discuss ideas for an anti-racist, queer pedagogy of spirituality. In the Google Docs on emotions, one of you, and I'm really sorry it doesn't say who put it, because I wanted to cite who it was properly and shout you out, but I couldn't see who it was, so I'm sorry. But one of you noted about the potential for a queer spirituality. What would that look like? What citational practices would it adopt? How much would it have to interrogate the bad ethics of neo-colonial tantra now to potentially get to a place where other approaches might be possible? These are questions I want to love and leave you with from afar, and I so look forward to hearing what you're thinking about. And